He isn't just offering a political critique.
Right. Crashing into a beautiful symphony.
That's a great way to put it. He's saying Curzon was sent to literally tear India apart. It was textbook, divide and rule.
I want you to start by just, close your eyes for a second and just imagine a map.
Okay, map.
But not just a piece of paper or that digital grid on your phone that gets you from point A to point B.
Right, something a bit more tangible.
Exactly. I want you to imagine a map as a living, breathing entity. Like imagine the rivers as veins, the topography as a pulse, the borders as skin.
Oh, wow. That's a very visceral image.
Right. Now, what happens when someone takes a thick black pen and just draws a line straight through its heart?
Oof. That's a profound kind of trauma.
It is. And that violent cartography, that idea of mapping trauma, is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to our deep dive into the historical and emotional landscape of Siddharth Shangvi's literary work.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Shangvi does something so unique with this text.
He really does, because our mission today is to unpack how he blends this massive macro trauma of the British Raj, specifically the 1905 partition of Bengal under Lord Curzon, with the intimate personal grief of a character named Karun.
Yeah, and what makes this text so striking is that, when we normally talk about lines on maps, the conversation defaults to just, geography or politics.
Statistics, troop movements, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But drawing a line through a map is rarely just an administrative exercise. It's the severing of communities. It's a loss that fundamentally alters a collective identity.
And what makes this deep dive so compelling for you as a listener is that we aren't just reading a dry history book here.
Far from it.
We are looking at a piece of literature that uses the geopolitical tearing apart of a nation as a mirror for the breaking of a human heart. So sit back, because we really need to unpack this dual narrative of national and personal partition.
Right. And to really grasp the emotional architecture of what Shangvi is building here, we have to start with the historical foundation he lays down.
The era of Lord Curzon?
Yes. He places the reader squarely in the years 1904 to 1905. The central figure looming over this era is Lord Curzon, the Viceroy of India. And, Shangvi characterizes Curzon's role in India with absolute ferocity.
Ferocity is putting it mildly. He literally describes Lord Curzon not as a statesman, but as a Satan wearing a suit.
Yeah, he does not hold back.
Not at all. And I gotta be honest, when I first read that, I thought, isn't that a bit cartoonish? It's a very heavy, almost melodramatic indictment of a historical figure. Why does he use such extreme language?
It's a great question, because it does sound extreme to a modern ear. But you have to understand the specific argument Shangvi is making. He isn't just offering a political critique.
Right.
He is offering a spiritual critique of the empire's worldview.
Yeah.
He's saying Curzon was sent to literally tear India apart.
Because Curzon viewed India merely as a piece of land,
Yes.
right? Just a place to be governed and exploited.
Exactly. He was completely blind to its rich traditions, the history, the architecture. To him, the people living there were just data points.
It makes me think of, it's kind of like a ruthless corporate liquidator looking at a beautiful, multi-generational family home.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Like they walk through this home full of memories and history, and all they see is the scrap value of the raw materials. They just want to rip the copper wire out of the walls.
That is exactly how Shangvi portrays the colonial mindset. And that blindness sets up the emotional stakes of the entire narrative.
So how does Shangvi use that historical blindness to set up those stakes?
Well, this section establishes what I'd call the original sin of the text, the 1905 partition of Bengal.
The slicing of a cultural soul.
Yes, because it wasn't just a political maneuver. Curzon didn't just draw a random line. He specifically and calculatingly drew the border to separate the Hindu-majority West from the Muslim-majority East.
So it was a strategic maneuver to fracture the culture.
According to the text, it was a deliberate attempt to divide and crush the very soul of the culture. It was textbook, divide and rule.
Which brings us to the hubris of the empire. Because they didn't exactly advertise it as crushing a soul, did they?
No. They framed it as a noble imperative. The British Empire, embodied by Curzon, operated on this arrogant belief that India's backwardness could only be cured by England's intervention.
Right, the classic civilizing mission narrative.
Exactly. But Shangvi completely dismantles that justification. He counters it by asserting that the reality was widespread looting.
And wait, he takes it a step further, doesn't he? I want to jump in here because I found this so subversive.
Oh, the part about the villages?
Yes. Wait, so Shangvi is completely flipping the traditional script of the civilizer and the civilized on its head.
He absolutely is. He argues that if any true great civilization remained, it wasn't in the British administrative buildings. It was quietly residing in the villages of India.
Which were operating in total harmony before the empire showed up.
Right. The empire didn't bring order. It brought disruption to a harmonious way of life. And that dynamic highlights the tragedy perfectly.
Which leads us perfectly into Shangvi's most poignant metaphor, the parable of the flamingos.
Oh, this part is it's devastating.
It really is. It takes this broad historical clash of civilizations we just talked about, and it makes the loss completely visceral.
It gives the disruption a physical form. Tell the listeners how Shangvi sets up this parable.
So he paints this incredibly vivid picture of a massive, delicate flock of flamingos. We are talking thousands of them, right?
Thousands, yeah. A huge flock.
And they used to visit this one specific lake, and their mere presence brought this profound beauty, peace, and unity to the entire area.
It was a perfectly balanced ecosystem, a state of grace.
Exactly. And then the disruption happens. A British official is stationed near this lake, and he's not hunting them for food. He's not in danger.
He's just annoyed.
Yes. He's just annoyed by their mere presence and their noise. He can't control them, so what does he do? He just raises his rifle and shoots one of the birds dead.
It's such a casual, banal act of violence.
And the devastating result. The next day, the entire flock leaves.
Oh.
Forever.
They never come back.
Never. The once vibrant lake is transformed into this quiet, deserted, and profoundly sad place. It's like a single, harsh, out-of-tune note crashing into a beautiful symphony.
That's a great way to put it.
And the dissonance is so bad that it causes the entire orchestra to just put down their instruments and walk away.
Yeah, the music just stops. And as an analyst, it's clear how Shangvi connects the dots here. The flamingos represent that lost era of unity.
Yeah.
The untainted soul of India.
And the British official.
He's the empire. The British couldn't tolerate or understand this natural harmony because it didn't fit into their ledgers.
So that single bullet
isn't just a gunshot. It is the 1905 partition of Bengal itself.
Wow.
It destroys a fragile ecosystem of cultural unity that can never, ever be put back together. The silence of the lake is the generational trauma of that partition.
That is just brilliant writing.
Yeah.
But Shangvi doesn't stop at the macro level of historical trauma, does he?
No, he does this incredible structural pivot. He shifts the focus from the historical and symbolic to the intensely, uncomfortably personal.
Right, because how does the loss of the flamingos and the cruelty of Curzon actually relate to an individual person?
This is where we introduce the character of Karun.
Yes, Karun. And I have to say, Shangvi's address to this character is so pointed. It's almost sarcastic.
It's brutal. He literally writes, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he tells Karun, Lord Curzon gave this country more pain than you did.
I mean, what a line. He's drawing a direct, haunting parallel between macro history and micro relationships.
Exactly. He is scaling the trauma down to show us how it operates on a personal level.
But wait, let me ask you a probing question here. By comparing Karun to a literal empire, is Shangvi saying that the act of partition isn't just something that happens on maps, but something we inflict on each other in our living rooms?
He is validating exactly that. It's the concept of the internal partition.
The internal partition. Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, think about what drove the emperors. Lord Curzon, or the Kaisers, or the Tsars. They were driven by a destructive hunger to conquer and control the world, right?
Right, a massive ego.
Yes. And Karun is driven by the exact same thing on a micro scale. He is driven by a stubborn pride and arrogance, a concept known as ahankar.
Ahankar. So toxic pride.
Precisely. His pride causes a partition in his own life. He demands total control over his personal relationships, and as a result, he destroys them.
He severs himself from love, just like Curzon severed Bengal.
Exactly. The motivation is identical. It's the desire for control and the complete inability to appreciate the harmony of the whole ecosystem because you're too focused on protecting your own little territory.
So Karun essentially becomes the British official with the rifle.
Yes, he does.
And his family, his friends, the people who love him, they are the flamingos.
You nailed it. He fires the gunshot of pride, and the inevitable result is that everyone eventually leaves.
And the lake of his life is left completely barren.
Completely desolate.
It's such a profound way to synthesize all these threads. As we bring this together for you listening right now, Shangvi's ultimate lesson really snaps into focus.
It really does. Because history isn't just dates and viceroys.
No, it's a blueprint for human behavior.
Exactly. Shangvi warns Karun that he may achieve wealth, he may achieve high status and power.
Like an emperor.
Right, like an emperor. But because of his pride, because of his ahankar, he has lost love and respect.
It's the ultimate Pyrrhic victory. You defend your borders perfectly, but you're left completely alone.
Which leaves us with that poignant final image from the text. A life without love, driven only by conquest, is as empty and desolate as that lake after the flamingos flew away.
You're just holding the smoking rifle, wondering where all the beauty went.
It's a devastating takeaway.
It really is. And so, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to ponder long after you stop listening today.
Something to reflect on.
Yeah. If our personal relationships can truly mirror the rise and fall of empires, if the way we treat our loved ones is identical to how nations are partitioned, what borders have you unknowingly drawn in your own life to keep others out?
What walls of pride have you built?
Exactly. And most importantly, what beautiful things might have flown away because of them? Keep that map in your mind. Thanks for joining our deep dive.